to episode 103 of the PE Geek podcast. And as always, it's a pleasure to have you here. Now I'm joined with a very special guest today in Brenda Tang. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Very good. Now, for our listeners, where are you joining us from at the moment?
I'm joining you from Ontario, Canada. In fact, just outside Toronto in a place called Pickering.
I've been to Toronto about 2 years ago, and I went to the York School in Toronto to run a workshop. Do you know the school?
You mean York University?
No, it was actually like a school, so maybe it like affiliated somehow, but like a high school, and we did a workshop there for teachers, and it was a great experience being in that part of the world. But I can imagine it's starting to warm up at the moment.
No, it is very cold. We're in Celsius here, so it was, I think I got to a high of 7 degrees Celsius today.
But the light is coming, like it's going to happen soon. You can see it happening.
There was sun, yeah, there was sun. I mean, I take my kids out to the park when it's sunny. Typical Canadian, as soon as the sun comes out, we're out on our patios, right? So we're in our parkas out at the beach, walking around, Yeah,
I mean, it's nice. We're about to do the opposite, start to go into that, winter months, but it's nothing compared to the sort of stuff that, you would have to face. So before we, dive into the rest of the episode, where did this teaching journey happen and start for you?
I came to teaching a little bit late. I did my degree in kinesiology, so I have an honors bachelor of kinesiology. But I didn't think I was going to go into teaching. I actually graduated with a minor, or actually more than a minor, in French. So I'm actually a French teacher as well. And I went down the journey of being a kinesiologist, and I worked in that field for a couple of years, and I coached on the side. And I discovered that I really liked coaching. I really liked working with children. And so it was sort of an easy progression to get into, to go and apply for teachers college and to move into teaching.
Yeah. And was it something that you now get to draw from those kinesiology experiences?
Yeah. So I work in an elementary school, which means I teach grades between kindergarten and grade 8. Although my degree allows me to teach actually what's called intermediate senior, so grades 7 through to 12, which is the end of high school here. So had I been teaching in high school, yes, I would very much have been doing a lot of the kinesiology classes. But because I'm in the elementary setting, I tend to be able to, or I'm asked to teach a much broader spectrum.
Nice.
So being in phys ed in the last couple of years and being like a full-time phys ed teacher has been fantastic because I get to do what I love.
Yeah. Well, what is it that you love about phys ed?
Well, it's funny you should say that. I'm laughing because I'm not really quite an athletic person. Everybody laughs at me because I actually am an artist. I paint and I draw and I dance, and it's people look at me a little bit differently when I say, I speak multiple languages and I do all of these arts things, but I'm a phys ed teacher because to me, it's not about teaching a sport. It is about teaching a love and a passion for being physically active. And I tend to come at it from that angle.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to be able to draw from all these different experiences and different types of teachers that teach this, the phys ed subject, because I could think of nothing worse than everyone being the same and trying to approach it the same. And, the typical PE teacher who's, sporty and so on. Like, we want people who have all these different brushstrokes and different ways that they can add value to their students. So somewhere along this journey, you've discovered social media and Twitter. How did that happen? And what was the value there?
Well, it's funny. I don't want you to get me wrong. I am actually an athlete. I was a competitive swimmer growing up, and I was nationally ranked, and I was in university, and I swam for my universities. But I mean, to me, it was part of who I am, as opposed to, it didn't necessarily always define me. But I was going to, when it comes to technology, I chose to kind of sit back and learn the craft of classroom management before I stepped into technology. But when I started dating this lovely man that I ended up marrying, I don't know what came over me, but he he's a graphic designer, and he was always about technology, and he would introduce me to all these things. And that sort of started me on the road. I think it was, I was telling him about a slide deck. I was doing a PowerPoint, and he said, "Why use PowerPoint? What about Prezi?" And suddenly it was like, oh, yeah. And I was doing it. I was teaching my kids Prezi, and that was the sort of the stepping stone.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny how it's a stepping stone, isn't it? Like, one situation like that, but then, you get a positive response from it, and it works well, and you start to explore other things, and before long, you've just done all this stuff. So when did you sign up for Twitter, and was that like just by chance, or did someone tell you about it?
It was actually a little bit by chance. So here in Canada, we get a maternity leave when we get up to a year off when we have our babies. So I was on mat leave, and I think it was during the Olympics, and I'm a huge Olympics nerd, and I was watching it, and I wanted to tweet. I'd heard about Twitter. My husband would talk about it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to check this out. And as I started doing it, I think I stumbled across Dale Sidebottom.
Wow.
And I was like, what? There's all of this stuff? Dale seems so knowledgeable. Yeah. And I started from there. He's going to be preening when he hears this. And I think that's honestly how I started. And I kind of added to that.
Yeah.
That, and I used to watch TED Talks all the time, and it just sort of grew.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is crazy how that whole social media thing, it's almost like Pandora's box in a way. You open it up, and then you find something like, in your case, you found what Dale was sharing, and you just keep getting further and further into it, and there's more and more value. And the value is what you choose it to be. You can take as much as you like, or you don't have to be there every second of the day to get the value.
Yeah, and you can often get overwhelmed by it because there is so much there as well. And I tend to do that, as you said. You sort of pick and choose, and I'll jump on for a couple minutes here and there, and then come back out. I have to almost digest how much I'm getting.
Yeah, it's definitely like that. But the other value to that also is that you don't necessarily have to implement the things that you see, but they can sort of reaffirm what you think is true, and help. I find it motivational as well, just to see what other people are doing, even if I don't implement the thing that they do. Somehow has an impact on me and the stuff that we do. So, what have you learned that you can probably directly attribute to maybe online that was an app or a tool or something that you thought, hey, I'm going to go check that out and try it, and it's been successful?
Well, you know what? I could start with this list, and it could go on for days. But again, Dale is going to love me. I love ClassBreak, and I don't even use it that much. I love ClassBreak because I actually pass it on to all the supply teachers I work with. Because there's so many teachers that come in that have nothing with them, and they go into a phys ed classroom and don't know what to do. And I'm like, listen, this is the app. Start with this. This is your basic bones, and go from there. So I keep it on my phone, not necessarily because I need it as much, because I'm in my 15th year of teaching. So it's a little bit easier for me, but it is fantastic reference for other people.
It is.
Balance It is a big one as well.
Thank you for that. That's, Dale will be very happy welcome. I know that he built that when he was in the same situation, supply teachers coming in, looking for, he was a supply teacher, and he'd draw these games and resources with him, and then other supply teachers are like, what? You should turn that into an app. So he did, and then, of course, now that's typically what people do with it. So he'd be very happy about it. But Balance It, like how did you use that?
Well, I've actually just finished a unit on doing balancing and coordination with my grade ones, actually ones to eights. And I will put it up on the screen, and I actually incorporate numeracy into it. Awesome. So we start to talk about angles.
Yeah.
And how to create different angles with it. So they see the image and then they try to create something from there. Or we use, I want, this angle, or I want a 90-degree angle, or what have you. And then they build from there.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun with that.
Balance It is this example of the simplest app I think we ever built that has almost, amongst people in the Twitter realm, that are PE teachers, it's sort of viral because a lot of people use it and get a great result with it. And it's really just pictures in an app, nice and easily packaged. And you don't have to carry anything around. You've always got it with you. So it's amazing how the simplest ideas seem to work. And have you found that simple is always sometimes best with tech?
Yeah, because too often what happens is that tech can break down.
It can.
And you always have to have a backup plan. So you can start with the basics, and when you have that building block, you can make it more elaborate. So if you have a piece of technology that you can build from, and I think I can't remember, I'm sure you'll tell me, you can send in information to Balance It, and you'll update the app with the pictures, or I can't remember if that was the case. Yeah. And I think that's perfect. I mean, I think that's what we all want.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're right there. You start with the good foundational block of how you use whatever it is, and you can scale out from that. And we work with a lot of people, and unfortunately, as simple as that sounds, it quite often people come in their very first introduction of using something or doing something, and they try and do too much, and it often ends up in a bit of a disaster, and they directly attribute that disaster to the technology that they were trying to use. But in all cases, it's good teaching or bad teaching that makes something successful or not successful. And, my advice is start small and be mindful about what it is that you're trying to do. I guess a follow-on question from that is there anything that you've ever tested or tried or done, and this is putting you on the spot, that maybe hasn't worked out straight away and you've had to go away and think about how you could use it in the future?
Are you kidding me? Tons of stuff.
I think you're honest to say that. You're completely honest. I'm glad you said it.
I think being a good teacher, you have to be able to say, guys, that so didn't work. Yeah. Let's just rewind that and start again. And that's how you do it as a teacher, right? Those kids, you are more authentic when you tell them the truth. They need to know you fail. I mean, that's part of the journey. It is the journey. So is there one? Let me see. I'm just going to go through my pages here. I think the one that really got me is I started using OneNote, and it drives me crazy. It has great elements, and you can almost flip your classroom with it. But we, at least my board, currently has too many platforms. And I was so overwhelmed that my kids didn't know what to draw from or where to draw from. And I found that the year that I did it overwhelmed them. And I didn't realize why until I sat back and went, this is not your comfort level. This is what my staff want me to use, but this is not what you need for me to be able to teach you successfully. So once I did that, and I went, ooh, Google Classroom, let's try this again.
Yeah. That's an important lesson, isn't it? Like, reflecting on the tool and making sure that it's the right fit for the students that we're working with. And so in your case, you moved to Google Classroom, and how did that change? I'm still learning it, because obviously I had to update myself on OneNote, and switching those platforms I find is a little bit more difficult. Yeah, definitely. But and I'm an Apple person as well, so my brain is overwhelmed every once in a while. But I find it easier, and I find it easier to tell staff how to find things. Yeah. Because I don't know, I'm sure it is the same with you, that as soon as somebody knows that you use technology in the classroom, suddenly you are the PE geek. That's exactly how it happened. exactly.
And I find it hilarious. I mean, I became the webmaster at my school, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But it's because the idea of using technology is so difficult for people.
Yeah. So how do you, obviously now you're known, and you've got, you're trying lots of things and you're helping other people. How do you help that person in your school that, a little bit more reluctant, maybe they've been doing things the same way and expecting the same results? How do you help them get a result with maybe one tool or something that you're, doing in your classes that's been successful? What do you reckon the best approach is?
Start small, very small.
Yeah.
A great tool that I started using when I was a homeroom teacher was an app called Remind. And it really allowed teachers to connect with parents and with students when they were older, obviously, very quickly and succinctly. It took a lot of the let's write on the agenda, let's call each other. Parents don't have time for that. Kids don't remember. That was the first tool that really improved my teaching ability. No, not teaching ability, my ability to connect properly with the parents of the students I teach. And so I recommended that to a lot of my friends when they were struggling.
Yeah, you had this ability to scale your communication really effectively, and so you started to introduce or tell other teachers about that. Is that what you mean?
Yes, I did. That was a long-winded way of saying, that was the first thing I would recommend. If they are really Luddites or afraid of technology, I would recommend Remind, because it is so familiar in that they're still communicating. It's just a different platform.
Yeah.
But it would be the same way, same information, just a different platform.
Yeah. So you're helping them start with something that it's a bit more familiar, and start small and gradually change, and then you're able to include more and more as time goes on. But you want them to have a quick win, don't you? Almost like they see the value that it provides them. And in your case, the Remind, they might see the value that, now they've got more time to themselves, because now they're not having to ring up every single person individually.
That's right. And when they could see, because what I would do is, what I do actually is I'll create a Remind for myself, for my staff. So even though I'm just a lowly phys ed teacher at my school, I'll still connect everybody else on Remind with an account for me.
Yeah.
And that way I can communicate with them very quickly, and they're able to communicate with me, and we can create different events within the staff community very, very effectively.
Yeah.
And when they see that, it makes all the difference for that next jump.
Definitely does. And it's that incremental, show them value, make it easy, and sort of make it missable. If the thing that they use becomes so much part of their practice that they can't not use it, then it sort of worked, because now their practice has shifted to that new thing.
That's right. And the other one I really liked is Padlet.
Yes.
Because again, it's all about doing those parking lots, and teachers love paper and pencils. We love to go back to the way we were taught. But this is pretty much the same thing. You can connect on any device. And it's a virtual sticky note, and in its most basic form. And it allows for those teachers that are just not feeling safe yet, it allows them that small step forward. In fact, I just did it with a friend of mine who came to a PD session that I was running, and she'd never used Padlet before. And I sat down with her during the presentation, and she did it, and she was so excited. Awesome. And I was like, that's my day. Yeah. Check, done. I can go home now.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. It definitely is positive to see people make those changes and movements and so on. And, one of the things that I think you pointed out earlier on before is how important failure is too in the process. A lot of the time we try and protect people from, and I'm talking about teachers, which teachers try and protect themselves from making a mistake in front of the students. Oh my, don't let that ever happen.
Are you kidding me?
I think it's the best thing that you could do, and I'm glad you mentioned it. I think it's one of the reasons we did a survey of our audience and we asked them, what's one of the biggest blocks stopping you from using technology? And this came up far too high on the list for me. People were afraid that, they'd make a mistake in front of a group and they'd look bad. And I just think it's the wrong way to view it. And it sounds like you're the same.
Yeah. I mean, I've had too many life experiences for me to care anymore about looking foolish. Don't get me wrong, in front of my peers, we all get nervous. But the first thing I teach my homeroom is we all have stress responses, and they giggle. I can say this, and if they ever heard me say this, they would literally be laughing because I'm always like, yep, see the sweating? And they know. They're like, Madame, because I teach in French. They're like, Madame, you're sweating again. You okay? Because it's true. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to look foolish. And if they don't see it, and if you can't laugh at yourself, you're losing half of your message. Yeah,
definitely. Particularly the realism associated with learning. Learning is very messy. And, our students go through this, I just sometimes look at some of my colleagues that I worked with who just, not just related to technology, but would do everything in their power to make sure that they always look to be the expert, the knowledgeable person. I think they're missing a massive opportunity to connect with their students by being vulnerable, by being a learner, by being very clear and apparent that that's who they are in the classroom, rather than this font of all knowledge that doesn't make mistakes. And
exactly.
That's what I've embraced with technology. It seems to work well. So what are you hoping to learn or interested in trying out in future units or future classes? Is there anything that you've seen and you thought, that might be
cool? You're putting me on the spot again. You know what? I think I'm actually going to look into blogging.
Awesome.
It's something that my husband has been trying to push me into, and I have a lot of staff, both at my board level as well as within my school, who've been asking me for a lot of resources. And I've realized, okay, well, I'm creating them anyway. Anyways, I might as well start posting them. So I'm right actually in the middle of creating a blog site, a blog, sorry. And setting up and making it live within the next month. So that's going to be coming out soon. And when I do know, I'll let you know.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for sure. And the great thing about a blog is, not every single teacher is going to sign up for Twitter and social and get active and share and even lurk. But what you could do through your blog, and what I've found to be the case, is, I'm able to take the stuff that's working well online and people will respond to, and I can, do a post about that thing on our blog. And the people are very comfortable with going to a site and your site and downloading stuff. And that's how they get their value. You don't have to necessarily be online and on social to get it. So they're a great way to curate. That's the word I'm looking for. Curate great material for people, even if it's just for yourself. As my blog was when I first started, it was for no one other than me. And my mum, actually, and my mum. But
I always think of it as like bite size.
Yeah,
a blog is bite size.
Yeah, definitely. It makes a lot of sense as a way to share good practice, and I look forward to sharing it in the show notes for this episode. So there's a bit of a challenge for you. This episode will go out in a few weeks' time from today, and let's hope that we can have the link to the site ready to go.
I will do my very best. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for stopping by the PE Geek podcast. And it's always great to see what people are doing, and there's so many similarities, even though you're teaching in Canada and teaching in Australia, and people who listen are all over the place. There's lots of things that we share, and that is that people are trying to do their best. They're trying to use tech to, make things easier for them. And we make mistakes. And, really at the heart of this all, it's good teaching. And it sounds like you've nailed it completely.
I'm never going to say I've nailed it. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. But it is a learning experience. And you only realize looking back how much you didn't know.
Yes, that's true. true.
So I will say I'm only slightly farther along the spectrum.
Yeah, you've nailed the process of knowing that this is a journey and we always improve. That mindset is perfect, I think.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. It's
been a pleasure.
Yeah, this will be great to get out, and I look forward to speaking again very soon.
Take care.
See ya.